May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
You're tuned to the show. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. You're tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I'm Scott, your host, and a man who always stands and removes his hat for the national anthem. And with me on the air today is the man in the studio, making all the dials spin and all the faders fade. Paul B. How's it going, Paul?
Good. I never wear a hat. I'm always patriotic.
Always patriotic just because of that, right there.
As long as I'm on the U.S. ground, I don't put on a hat.
There you go. I like it. I like the policy. It's solid. Well, if you guys out there in radio land, podcasting land, have a question for me, you can always email me at scott@robertsoncom.com, and I will try to answer anything I get right here on the show. Also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook at RobertsonCom, 2 M's like communications. And you can see all my little posts or on Twitter at RobertsonCom. Go ahead and reach out and connect. Hopefully I can entertain you and give you a few tips along the way as well. Today's show I'm excited about. I thought I would spend some time talking about the audience. You know, as a musician, and I pretend to be one on the weekends, to play a gig, you really need one very important thing, and I'm not talking about beer. You need an audience, and hopefully it's going to be your audience, with any luck at all. Well, the same thing is true in marketing. We're going to spend a lot of time on the show today talking about the other big circle in the communications model, the audience, and show you the best ways to attract your audience and not send them packing, before you're done with your show. And we're also going to talk about who's winning and losing this week in marketing. Lots of stuff there. I don't even know if we have enough time. We could do the whole show just on that, actually. But it's more educational to talk about the audience, so we're going to do that instead. Here in the first segment, I thought I would kick off by just talking about what do we mean when we talk about the audience? Obviously the word comes from the dictionary definition, or what we'll call the Wikipedia definition, is the assembled spectators or listeners at a public event, such as a play, a movie, a concert, or a meeting. All the people, out there kind of chair dancing as you play Mustang Sally, also the audience. In communications, we're really just talking about the receiver in the communications model. These are the people that your brand wants to reach for whatever reason that you kind of deem strategically appropriate. They're your people. Bands refer to it as our following, our fans, our group. The audience is critically important in communications, yet it is one of the things that is overlooked most often. And I think it's because sometimes the audience is obvious. It can become extremely, we can skip over it in a certain way. There is a term, and it's called audience analysis. It comes from technical writing, actually. And I just wanted to give you a definition of that. So audience analysis is a task that's often performed by technical writers in a project's early stages. It consists of assessing the audience to make sure the information provided to them is at an appropriate level. So the audience is often referred to as the end user, and communications need to be targeted towards a defined audience. Defining an audience requires the consideration of many factors: age, culture, knowledge of the subject. After considering all the known factors, a profile of the intended audience can be created, allowing writers to write in a manner that is understood by the intended audience. So I started my career as a journalist, but I quickly moved into technical writing. And this audience analysis step is found very, very often in technical writing. It's critically important when you're doing technical writing, because you must know the grade level of the person that you're writing to. If you're doing something that is a manufacturing level process, then you need to dial back your multisyllabic words and your writing style, and you need to be able to, communicate with more simpler language. You need to understand the grade level of the end user target. And so it's used in this audience analysis as a term that is prevalent in technical writing. but it needs to be more so, I think, in all communications. Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Believe me, I've been involved with a lot of different communications activities, and you'd be surprised at how many of them start with, okay, so who do we want to reach and why? Actually, it would benefit a lot of organizations if they started asking, more questions like that. The reason that you want to know as much as you can about your audience is that different audiences are going to mean different messages for you. That's one thing that they don't teach you in the first communications model class, where you have the big circle sender, big circle receiver audience, and the big circle the message, is the fact that the arrow changes depending. If you switch out the target, then you must switch out the arrow at the same time. It's very, very important that you do that. And I know that sounds really basic, and people are like, well, Scott, that's really basic. Would you like to know how many times this basic information that I'm giving you is completely ignored in the professional space? And I mean completely. We're going to do a whole segment where I'll be able to point to a lot of examples right off of your screen today that show you that people aren't doing this kind of thinking before they start to communicate. And you should. You honestly should. It really is the core stuff that we're talking about in communications, and it is omitted. Another question that I wanted to put out there, while we're talking about audience analysis, and of course we can go through all the various ways that an audience can be dissected. But one question that I throw out a lot is the fact is, does marketing really respect and trust its audiences? Does marketing respect the audience? Well, how can you tell? How can you tell? I feel, and I say a lot on my show and in my various conversations, that marketing has somewhat lost respect for its audience. I think that comes from the ability to be able to communicate to large groups of people for seemingly, quote unquote, for free, being able to email. Here in this digital world, it's easier than ever to communicate. And I think that because it's easier, it actually is not a good service for the marketing profession and what marketing's trying to do out there. It's very easy to lose respect and trust for the audience. They just become a number. They just become a name on a list. They just become another impression or another engagement or another like or another thing like that. And the danger with that is, don't forget that all of these numbers that you're looking at are human beings. They are human beings. And what you ultimately are trying to do, because we're talking about marketing, is you're trying to build a relationship, right? Marketing is about relationships. I know I read that somewhere. I'm pretty sure. And, but if we're trying to build a relationship with someone, why do we beat them over the head with our message, at a level that we wouldn't do to our worst enemy? I mean, it's like setting off a glitter bomb at somebody's desk on their birthday. It's like, what's the matter with you? Who has to pick up the glitter? You know what I mean? Don't do stuff like that. Respect and trust your audience. The way that you can tell, hold your audience, in a very highly regarded position. And that will guide your decision making. As I've said many times on the show, you don't always have to communicate. And it was like, oh, a marketing person saying that you don't have to communicate. Yes, correct. If you don't have anything worthy of saying, don't. Don't. It's just that easy. It really is. That's how you build relationships. When you don't have anything to say, you wait until you do. I know. It's groundbreaking thinking coming at you right here on this show today, but it works. It really does work, and it really does. If you push back, if you're in the communications function, and let's say one of the departments that you serve is saying, "Oh, we really need to get this out. We really need to get this out." My first question is, do we really need to get this out, or do you really need to get this out? If you're in the communications function, you must. You're the defense. You're the last line of defense between the brand and your audience. You must be able to stand up internally and be able to allow people to tell you why they think they have something that is worthy of interrupting your audience, or something that is good enough that we can attract an audience. We're going to talk about the difference between attraction and interruption a bit of the audience too. But this part is really, really important to me and to a lot of companies out there. Do respect the audience. The way that you can tell is the fact that they have analyzed every single thing on the marketing mix and the marketing playlist, of everything that the marketing department is doing, and they say, we're making the choice to communicate here because we believe that this piece of communication is another brick in the wall, which is going to help us build a relationship. You may notice that sometimes, that when the S word comes in, when sales comes in, there's nothing wrong with using communications to sell. You must be careful. You must be very careful with your message because people don't like to be sold. Right? We spent a whole show just talking about how communications plays in with sales. Sales is critically important. The business doesn't survive without it. But it's also critically important to respect and trust that audience. I think that so much, you really can't overthink this stuff, when you're starting to work with your audience. Well, that's it for the first segment. Come on back. We're going to talk about how to build your audience and attract. Come back on Mission.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, you are tuned once again to May the Best Brand Win right here on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am still Scott, your host, and a man who is all about that audience. We are talking about the audience, and we're talking about with Paul B about the audience. What do you think, Paul? How's it going over there?
Pretty good. The audience is always right. That's the
audience is always drunk is my band's motto.
That's
right
true
there.
too. Well,
Yeah.
if you're playing, the drunker the better. That's the audience you want.
That is, you know what, you're right, because they're fun. They're a lot more fun.
I played a gig
yeah.
this Saturday with my band, and after our first set, when we said we were taking a break, some drunk guy from the back started screaming, "No breaks!" And it was just the sweetest thing you could ever shout at a band.
You're like, Dad, thank you. I love it. Well, we're talking about the audience, and this segment, I thought we'd talk a little bit about building your audience. Before we get into the fun nitty-gritty of that, I just want to talk about bands for a second, because bands are good about building an audience and knowing their audience and respecting their audience. I think bands actually do it a lot better than companies do. And maybe that's because they're on the ground and they have to work for it a little harder. And maybe because they interact personally with the audience a little bit more. But any band will tell you the number one way to build your audience is to be great, in your show. If you put on a great show and you help people, get to, the next level of entertainment, and they're super excited about it, then they follow you because they want that experience again and again, right? They want to follow good bands. They want to, if you're like an old dude bar band like mine, they want to come out. They want to hear the hit songs that they loved when they were in high school, and they want to kind of imagine that they, for a second, that they're still back in high school, and it seems like everybody loves the music that was happening when they were in high school, it's important to just be great. Seth Godin talks about that all the time. He says, if you build a truly remarkable and great product, your marketing takes care of itself. You don't have to have a comprehensive world's greatest marketing plan because you have the world's greatest thing that everybody wants. I know it sounds obvious, but again, and by the way, you should definitely follow everything that Seth Godin is saying out there, because he is right. So much of stuff that he talks about marketing is so counter to what's going on out there in marketing, and so very, very right. He is definitely somebody that you want to, invest in and read his books and follow his blog posts. His blog is really great because it's very short, but it's always really solid. So anyway, enough of a plug for Seth. Let's talk about how to build your audience. Aside from being great, building a loyal audience. And I always tell people that it's really important to focus on quality and not quantity. And that can be tough because, your tracking metrics look so great when you have a lot of zeros behind them and those kind of things. And that can be great. But remember and always come back to the reason that we do what we do, which is relationships. And you can have very high marks and metrics in the, engagement and click-throughs and all these kind of things. But you might have very low marks in terms of, wow, that's really a brand that will do, pretty much anything to get, engagement and clicks, but maybe doesn't have the best relationships with its people. A little study here. After 2 billion page views generated by 580,000 articles on 2,000 sites, Chartbeat found that 55% of readers spent fewer than 15 seconds actively on a page, right? And that's just the behavior of, of the audience, of the general audience out there. So if your CEO has an expectation that, they need to spend a minute on our page, well, your CEO now has an expectation that is directly in conflict with how human beings behave on the web, right? It's not going to work out, is how I would say it. Marketing's good, but you're limited to how people behave on a given medium. Click-through does not always mean, high engagement and attention. I think we're still looking at things like that. We're still, as a profession, the marketing profession, still evolving in our ways of figuring out, the questions are we reaching people, and how do we know? And how do we know we're reaching them with the right message and that kind of thing? It's still very complicated, even though folks will show you big data for days that make it seem like we have all this stuff like locked down and put together. Remember, it's always in motion, always. One thing that I always like to say too is that, I think email is a big key to building an audience. And when I'm saying email, I'm saying good email. There is a ton of garbage email out there that is awful. And that is just like, hey, just because we can, let's go ahead and just send out emails and let's automate them so we can send them. And, there's no surer way to drive your audience to the door than to be needy. You know what I mean? If you're the needy band, you know what I mean, in the band in the room that only has a few people listening and that kind of thing, and you start whining into the microphone or whatever, or you start becoming desperate, everybody's going to leave. Everybody's going to leave. That's human nature. Don't do stuff like that. But good email is very, very important. So the reason I say that is because, sometimes your kind of borrowed audiences on social sites like Facebook and those kind of things, you can distribute and reach a larger audience. But email is something that you can control and something that you can be really powerful with. And you definitely have your good metrics, on that. But I do. I'm a big believer in email. I think whether it's a band or a brand, I think that regular email communication is the way. Is a good way to build a relationship, but make sure that that email communication is something that is useful, is something that is entertaining, is useful, helps them in some way. It doesn't just help you, it's got to help them. And you'd be amazed how many emails I receive where I'm just like, why? What is this? Why? What is this supposed to be for me? What am I supposed to do with this? You don't want to be those kind of people. Building an audience also, you can work with other people. They call those people influencers, especially people who already have an audience that you want. Well, maybe, if you partner with a like-minded site or like let's say a YouTube channel has 1 million views and they're gamers and they're exactly the gamers that you want to meet with, that you want to reach, then, working with that site could be a really good thing. They should at very least have a meeting with you, and you guys should know each other and those kind of things. And maybe there's some type of a partnership that can be forged that's going to ultimately benefit the audience and going to benefit both parties putting the partnership together. I like doing things like that. I think that they're real, and I think that they can work really, really well. Another good way, obviously, when you're building your audience, make sure you're testing. Make sure that you are doing, A/B split testing on your emails. Make sure that you are trying to just, don't forget to test. Make sure that you are reaching the right audience by always reaching out there and testing. Again, as we talk about what you're going to send out, it's got to be great. It's got to be designed well, and the stuff has got to be great. If it's not great, then hold off on sending it. You want to hold off on sending that until you've got something that is great. I think that good design is really important as well. Remember, we talk about a lot on the show, the fact that people are spending, less and less time reading. So if your email comes out and it's a whole book, that's going to be, if it's lots of paragraphs and it's not broken up very, very well, and those kind of things, that stuff is really intimidating to the eye. And it's going to make people punt and leave and be like, I don't have time in my day to dig through this thing, So really think about your design. It's really, really, really important to do that. Really, really important. More things about building your audience that I just want to throw out there, or why it's important, actually, by the way, too. Especially when you're building your electronic audience, you don't have the benefits of body language and nonverbal cues and those kind of things. So you always want to make sure that when I say testing too, you're having people looking at your communications. Sometimes people that aren't you and that are outside are good people to test too. If you have a few, key customers you have a good relationship with, you just want to send them something to put a second set of eyes on. Believe me, nobody's ever, had gone too far astray or had a big problem with over testing things, too much, and in terms of that stuff. So it's really, really important to, test, retest, all that kind of stuff. Another thing that I will say is that. And that I say a lot, by the way, is I don't think that interrupting people is the strongest way to build relationships. I don't think that putting your message in front of something that they want to do is the way to do it. I think that in the new world here, what you want to do is create something that attracts an audience, almost like a TV show starts out and goes, how do we attract an audience? Or a band says, how do we attract an audience? The word attract will automatically get you stopping, the whole interruption marketing thing. And I just think that is something that you need to get good at, is thinking about how are we going to attract these kind of things? How are we going to attract the audience that we're looking for? And think about your touch points, and how to capture all that info for your audience list. That's the way you do it. You're tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and who's losing.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
All about that audience. Happy Friday. You are wisely tuned to May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. Still hanging with you, and still hanging with me, hopefully, is Paul B. back in the studio.
Still
Paul,
here. This is my favorite part coming up. I wouldn't miss this. Especially on a week
segment
like this
3,
week.
always the favorite.
Yep.
Are you learning a lot about the audience so far, Paul?
Sure.
You having fun?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, but without further ado, we're going to dig into who's winning and who's losing in the marketing world. First up, winning, got to be Snapchat. And they've been on all sides of the winning and losing coin recently. But, man, they're growing. And the ad revenues this week, they are supposed to reach almost $1 billion in 2017, according to the analysts at eMarketer. The firm estimates that the mobile social application will generate $366 million in 2016, but that figure will grow to $935.46 million in 2017. A jump it attributes to Snapchat's ability to reach the younger millennials, a wider ad portfolio, and ad targeting improvements. Ads on Snapchat. Well, they already have a little bit of that going on. They have kind of like sponsored content from various larger brands and that sort of thing. I'm not sure the audience is going to be completely tolerant of, quote unquote ads. But it will be interesting to see that. I think we definitely got to put them in the winning column. Also, I read that they just got a big line of credit, and they are prepping for an IPO, initial public offering. So that should all be very interesting on the social space to see, how Snapchat moves through all of that. Snapchat started out as this kind of dissolving social network. In a world that's concerned about their privacy, it started out with this basically, non-permanent type of posts that would sort of self-destruct, kind of like the Mission Impossible messages. And it's grown as being kind of a alternative to SMS texting and things like that. As I mentioned in several of the shows, by the way, definitely get on board with Snapchat and dig in there and start looking at it yourself so you can just make a determination if it's right for what you're trying to do or not. But anyway, I would say I definitely put them in the winning column with that $1 billion prediction. Losing, my bank, Wells Fargo. My Lord, what a problem this week. Okay, so they They were fined $185 million for opening a bunch of accounts without customers' knowledge. And then they fired over 5,000 people who were associated with this activity. So it wasn't one dude. It wasn't one little ring. It was 5,000 employees involved. And they got fined $185 million for opening accounts and charging people little bits of money here and there without customers' knowledge. So this is a extinction level event for a brand, in my opinion. Especially a brand that is built on trust, right? You got the serif font. You got, hey, we've been protecting your money ever since the Stagecoach days, and that kind of thing. And then you're like, oh, yeah. And you're the people who had 5,000 employees opening up accounts and siphoning off money from your people. And what I'm going to call a ridiculous amount of lack of oversight, that if you have 5,000 employees doing anything, it's amazing, much less something illegal. It's crazy. Anyway, that's horrific. That's absolutely horrific. The fact that that's going on. And, Wells Fargo was my bank, but maybe they're not going to be. We talk about trust a lot on this show, and it's like, do you trust them? Are we going to micromanage our statements now? I mean, to make sure this isn't happening again. It's just, I definitely put them in the losing column, and shame on them for, letting all this, come about and happen. Also losing out there in the world, there is just a mattress store in San Antonio, Texas, called Miracle Mattress, has created a commercial for their 9/11 sale, celebrating the 15-year anniversary or honoring the of September 11th. And this ad is horrific beyond anything I can begin to tell you. First of all, when someone comes to you and says, "Let's have a 9/11 sale," you need to smack them hard as you can muster. If get a friend in the store to smack them for you if you need to. But that is dumb. Seriously. You owe it to yourself to go up to YouTube and type in 9/11 sale mattress store ad. I can't really do it justice. They say, hey, they stack up twin mattresses in two towers. I'm not making this up, I swear to God. And they say, we have the twin towers of mattresses, and then two of the employees, I'm seriously not kidding, fall into the mattresses at the end of the thing and knock them down. And at the end, a lady looks at the camera and goes, "We will never forget." Yeah. So if you can't do marketing, hire somebody. Hire anybody, literally anybody at all. Or, you know what? Fantastic idea. Don't do any marketing. Don't, or do a coupon. You don't have to do a television ad. We always use the Jurassic Park logic technique on this show, which is, just because you can make dinosaurs does not mean you should, right? Should is a very important word in marketing, in my opinion. This should never have happened. And it'd be amazing to me if this store survives the backlash that's going to happen from this. Terrible. Go see it for yourself. You literally, it's getting covered all over the place. It's terrible. Also losing, I would definitely say the NFL is losing control over its narrative about the national anthem protests that are happening. Instead of the focus being on the start of the season and the NFL and all those kind of things, they've basically been hijacked by Colin Kaepernick, a marginal player at best. Let's be honest. I mean, I said to one person on Facebook, I said, that dude's going to have the cleanest jersey in the NFL unless he accidentally spills hot dog mustard on it, because he's not starting. He's a backup player, and but he started this controversy. We talked about it, I think, last week, by basically kneeling or sitting during the national anthem because if, it doesn't feel like he should be celebrating the national anthem. So a lot of players are joining with him. And here, this Sunday is September 11th, Sunday, the 15th anniversary of September 11th. So on the day when we should be kind of standing in unity and talking about how great America is, we're going to display to the world the fact that we're not. And what I told some people on Facebook is they said, oh, yeah, Colin Kaepernick and these people have the right to protest. Just because you have the constitutionally protected right to do something does not make it right, does not make it appropriate, does not make it tasteful, does not make you anything, right? It's, in my opinion, and it's my show, but in my opinion, it's an inappropriate venue for a political protest. It's not appropriate. It takes the focus away from what we're there to do. And there's nothing that the audience of the NFL is going to be able to do about the problem of injustice in the United States of America. That's a political problem. That's a system that has to be handled through the courts. None of those people are there in the stadium with you, just so you know. And they don't care either. So stop it. Is what I would say. And the NFL needs to get control over its own narrative too, because there's a lot of good things about this season starting, and they completely have lost control over what they're doing there. In the winning column, I saw something really, really cool. That was really, really neat little product. Basically, if you're a Trek person, you'll dig this. So Star Trek is celebrating the franchise's 50th anniversary, and ThinkGeek has announced a Bluetooth-powered replica of the Next Generation styled comm badge, the little badge that they wear on their chest. And they, if you remember the show, they could push it and it would chirp, and then they could ask the computer things, right? And that's not so crazy for us, right? Because we push a button on our phones and we can ask the computer things too, right? So what's cool is they made this little geeky badge, which I might get one, and then you can push it and it automatically brings up Siri or Google Now or what have you, right there on your phone. That's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, certainly it's not going to help you get girls or anything, but it's really cool nonetheless. I would say winning for that, by the way. In terms of, let's talk about losing. Samsung, my goodness, Samsung. So Samsung was dealt another blow. They've had some combustible problems with the old the new phone. The fact that it's blown up and many times for many people, and it's caused a lot of damage. The latest one is there's a video of it catching a Jeep on fire. But the FAA issued some guidance today that said that these phones are absolutely not allowed in any capacity on airliners because of their threat to explode. Now, so if you have a Samsung phone, they won't allow you to bring that device, by brand. They won't allow you to bring that through security. They won't allow you to pack it in your luggage. If you do, it's considered, a weapon. It's on that list of explosive devices. So that's horrific, man. They need to get control of their narrative like yesterday on that kind of stuff. Just terrible, terrible. And the last thing that I wanted to bring up was handwriting. Handwriting is losing, I would say. And there's a book out called The History and Uncertain Future of Handwriting. And the author says, our attachments to handwriting are purely emotional, and our associations with intelligence and neat lettering have fluctuated over time. And we variously link bad handwriting with intelligence. But none of that happens to be true. So the book is very interesting. I encourage you to pick it up if you're interested in handwriting throughout the years and what people, teachers that give lower grades to people who have worse penmanship. I have terrible penmanship, but I'm fairly smart. I've always said that to my teachers, and they were like, no, but you cannot write in cursive, so you're sitting in the back, Robertson. That's what I'm talking about. So I would definitely put, I think I would put handwriting in with a pen and a pencil in the losing category. I think we would just have to do that. And that's who's winning and losing this week. You are still tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks to build that audience.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on InterTalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hello, happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win, right back on InterTalk Radio, undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am still Scott, still your host, and we're here in segment 4. And hanging with me here in segment 4 is Paul. How's it going, Paul?
It's good. I'm looking around the floor for my jaw. I dropped it somewhere there when you were telling that mattress sale story.
Oh my
you're gonna have to forward me that video. No, I need to find it.
You know, I posted it actually. It's on. Just go to the Robertson Com Facebook page.
Okay,
and you see it in all of its magnificent glory there.
It sounds like it might be a troll job or something. Can that really be real?
No, it's real. It's real.
All right, I'll have to check it out.
You know, it's a local mattress ad, but it's just like, man, come on. And, you know, obviously, I don't know. Like I said, I can't imagine their store surviving the backlash that is coming for something in such incredibly poor taste. Amazing.
Yep.
Well, cool. Let's you know what? Let's dig into some here in segment 4. You know, we're talking about the audience. This whole show, we've been talking about the importance of the audience. We've been talking about all of that and how to build your audience. And really, in segment 4, I want to leave you with some tips and tricks about how to about how to deal with your audience or your audiences. You know, like I said, most of the times in professional communications, you're tasked with going after multiple audiences, and sometimes it's different tactics and it's definitely different messages to accomplish that. It always makes things a little bit more complicated depending on how many audiences you're trying to dig into and reach. So here's a few tips. Tip number 1, really, really strategize about who you want to reach and why. Ask a lot of pushback questions for folks that are, you can't do too much planning and preparation in this stage. It's really going to help set you up for success in any kind of communication that you're doing. So make sure that you are really strategizing about that. When you're sitting down, and I have folks that are friends of mine who are run large departments, and they serve the organization. They have managers, other directors, folks like that come and talk to them about what they need. That's great. They can need things all day long, but your communications function sits in a brand protection mode. Sits in as a last line of defense to make sure we're asking the right questions, and sort of defending the audience against potential onslaught that may or may not be good for them. And also, as you probably have finished the sentence, probably is not also good for the brand. So you always want to make sure you understand that. And you always want to bring people along in your thinking internally about that, because everybody wants the company brand to be successful. That's why we do anything. Internally. So we have to make sure that we are doing the right things. So you want to ask those pushback questions, like, who's the audience for this? Why do we think they care? Why do they need to hear about this from us right now? Why is it so important? Really, really thinking about things and sitting down and going, when's the last time that we communicated with them? Are we talking too much? Are we not, I can't imagine we're not talking enough, but let's say that's possible too. Really think it through. Number 2, make sure your message to the audience is appropriate. Make sure it's appropriate, targeted, and great. To do that, you have to have a bit of empathy for the audience. You have to be able to kind of put yourself in their position and say, if I received this, is the message going to have the intended effect? Is it going to have the impact that we're looking for? Is it appropriate? Is the message going to be? Is it targeted the right way? Does it use the right language? It's very, very important to do that work. And some people say, "Oh, well, that sounds like we don't have time for that. We just got to get it out." Well, all the problems I talk about in this show come from the mindset that goes, "We don't have time for that. Let's just get it out." We don't have time to think about the cultural sensitivity of 9/11. Let's just do a mattress ad with some 2 stacks of twin mattresses and just see what happens. What happens is the business goes out of business. I'll just give you the spoiler alert. That's what happens. So if that's the intended outcome, then you're right on target. But if it's not, then you probably want to think it through and make sure your stuff is appropriate, targeted, great. Use that audience empathy thing. Good communicators are able to channel themselves and put themselves in the place of the audience and be able to say, is this right? Is this right? Sounds basic, but it doesn't get done near enough. The third tip I have is to respect and trust your audience. Guard them very, very carefully. Again, you never want to sacrifice your, reputation, company's reputation, anything, simply for a short-term sale or for a, one communication tactic. Your communication tactics should come together to build that relationship. You should be able to show over time that we built a relationship with this person because we did several things along the way in the relationship that solidified this relationship. And then we didn't do anything stupid, is how I'll say it. We didn't, we had the opportunity to set up a retargeting campaign and follow them around on every website they were going to go to for a while. We had the opportunity to do that, and we decided not to because we decided that, hey, that's going to make them really distrust and hate us at a massive level, and we're not in the business of being hated, as it turns out. I hate companies that follow me in retargeting, and if they do, then I will get back to them every single time and say, "Stop it! What's the matter with you? When I'm ready to buy the athletic shoes, you'll know." Okay? It's like, it's my decision. Stop following me around with your advertising. It's creepy. And if you keep doing it, Washington's going to start turning its big old snake-like head and looking right at you and going, "Oh, I see I'm getting a lot of consumer complaints." What we need is actually a bureaucratic response to this problem. And what that's going to be is a bunch of legislation and a bunch of laws guaranteed to govern marketers who can't govern themselves. Right? It's coming. It's coming, internet marketers. Just so you know, they're already starting to look. They're already thinking of ways to do it. You got to respect and trust your audience. There's a lot at stake here. Not just your brand, not just anything. The marketing profession must, as a whole, be more responsible and guard and trust and respect the audience. And don't do things that make your company or your brand seem creepy. Number 4, listen to your audience. Let's put it in band terms. Somebody wants you to play, Sweet Home Alabama for the 10,000th time that your band has played it. Do it. You take requests. You're there to build a relationship. You're there to add to their enjoyment, their entertainment, those kind of things. I mean, if you're the kind of band that takes requests, if you're a cover band, if you're, an originals band, that would be difficult. You're probably not playing Sweet Home Alabama for it, but I'm just saying, listen to your audience. Always listen. Marketers, it's easier than ever before in the sort of recorded history of marketing time to listen to the audience. You always, always, always want to make your communications all about them. If you learn anything from listening to this show, make sure it's that. Make sure that you are evaluating everything that you're doing and saying, is this good enough for them? and hold them at a high level. Put them on a pedestal. My audience, is this good enough for my audience? Is this song ready? Have we practiced this thing enough? Do we have the endings and the beginnings tight? Do we know the background vocals? Do we know where we're coming in, where we're going out? Do we have this kind of thing? Are we ready to play this in front of our audience? And saying that, obviously, there are plenty of bands that kind of practice at the end of gigs, at the end of the night. Must say we're guilty of that ourselves. But that's usually when the audience has dwindled or is ridiculously drunk. And let's face it, they're not really remembering what the band's doing at that point anyway, because they're lost in some fantasy of them being in high school and trying to figure out which person they're going home with anyway. So sometimes that could be an appropriate strategy. But listen to the audience. Like I said, easier than ever. Twitter is an open architecture. Learn how to search on hashtags. Learn how to search what people are saying, especially when it comes to your followers. Learn what your followers are saying about a particular issue, and do that. Especially if you're gonna put something out there, always recognize that you are fundamentally taking a risk. And you want to take as little of a risk as possible, and you want to make sure you really, really know how things are going to go over, sort of before you put them out there to go over. Really, really important. Number 5, be ready to adapt to new audiences. Communications is always changing. We're always in flux. Be ready to bring in a new audience. Be ready to do all of those things. They're out there, your audience. They can either be delighted or completely unimpressed or even offended. But they are waiting to hear from you. Adopt a research and analysis first approach. Think about who you want to reach, why you want to reach them, why they're important. It sounds easy, but so many companies just rush to communicate without thinking about these critical first steps. And of course, they end up tripping all over themselves. And on this, this 15th anniversary of 9/11, I want to say that freedom still rings. And we all owe our respect to this great nation. So stand up, remove your hats, and God bless America. Until next week, this is Scott. Got this good talk. See you next week. Bye.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.